The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Webinar and then exit, just to get in and then exit.
Right. Okay. So welcome to this webinar in the ISCDO series, How Data Leaders Succeed. Now, before we go into the webinar, I'll just quickly tell you about the society. It's a society by data leaders, for data leaders. So, you know, we're all of us CDOs or have been CDOs, and we look to support our fellow members with documents, with ideas, with meetings, with webinars such as this, and with roundtables. And we've had some very successful ones, and I have to say I'm utterly excited about this particular webinar. Now, you can go and see what we're doing and our future events, and join the society at iscdo.org. So that's a little bit about the society. As I say, it's by people like yourselves, for people like yourselves, in a sort of mutually supportive way. So we're going to talk about today 3D storytelling for data-driven decision-making and culture. Now, this is the way ahead for data. It's the way ahead to make people understand what we can do with data. And I'm thoroughly excited, as I said, to listen to our presenters, Robert Abate and Jason Marsh, both of whom will introduce themselves in a second, and to hear what they're going to talk about. And we did a minor demonstration of some of the capabilities just before we started broadcasting, and I'm already sort of thinking about how much fun I could have whilst they're talking, playing with what they're going to demonstrate. So, you know, that's the value that we're going to get out of today. If you've got any questions, please put them in the chat, and we'll try and get to them at the end, or however the guys want to deal with them as they come up. So, Robert and Jason, over to you, and thank you both for coming and being prepared to talk about this really interesting and exciting topic.
Well, thank you, sir. Truly a pleasure to be a member of the ISCDO. It's a great society. If you're not a member, please consider joining. We have a number of artifacts that are shared amongst chief data officers, including best practices for your first 90 days, job descriptions, and other items. So, data storytelling. I just want to start with the idea behind this, that data storytelling. I started data storytelling back in 2010 and 11, well, at Walmart. What I was doing was taking a ton of data, and I tried to put the data into PowerPoint, and I wasn't getting the message across. So I next used a data tool, a visualization tool, Tableau, and I was able to step through, but I couldn't get interaction between participants. And so the sum total of all of it is the need to be able to not only have collaboration in storytelling, but also immersion. You want the person who is part of this data storytelling, which really is this next wave of communicating and collaborating around data, is that idea you want to include your audience and lead them through a series of steps, and we'll talk about the tool and alike. But that real-time audience interaction and 3D perspective, what it does is it allows a person to understand and filter and look at what they'd like, and it becomes highly engaging. And all that's required is a browser. And we're going to, as part of this discussion, we're going to take you through an actual client deliverable that we generated, which was the emergence of serious health conditions, specifically diabetes, as an after effect of the COVID-19 pandemic and subsequent lockdown. So that is an introduction to the ISCDO, an introduction to the talk. Myself, I've been a member of the ISCDO for a number of years. and now I'm a member of the board. So that's why I'm doing a little promotion here to get people to join. So with that introduction, I'll turn it over to Jason Marsh to introduce himself.
Hello, thank you, Robert, Michael. This is amazing to be part of such an important group. I'm the founder. I'm a technical founder of Flow Immersive, and this is not at all a sales pitch. However, I've been working on this for 6 years. I'm very enthusiastic about it, and we've come up with a bunch of really interesting things around the brain science of understanding information. So if I sound, if my enthusiasm sounds a little salesy, please forgive me. I will really try not to do that. But to give you a little experience of sense of myself, I have been in enterprise software for 30 years. I started working on speech recognition at Apple Computer back in 1991, and basically left Apple after a few short years and have been an entrepreneur ever since. Most recently, really focused on how we build good mental models of information and ways of doing that. It turns out that data is a really fundamental part of our modern knowledge workforce, and being able to visualize data in an engaging way where people can make better data-driven decisions, and in some use cases, promote sales conversions is our core value. And around data stories. So let me just describe a data story real quick, which is that we are used to seeing a lot of data visualization in something like Tableau. And there's a lot of great use cases, and there's depths of data analysis you can do in Tableau, as well as R scripts and Python and et cetera, and all the really amazing tools out there. But they're not really designed to communicate data well in a collaborative environment. We're also used to PowerPoints as our way of communicating a lot of data. Copying and pasting screenshots into PowerPoint is a typical use case. Instead, what we think is by marrying the two together, marrying the head, the intellect of the data with the heart, with the story, and something called data stories is a way that we can communicate more effectively. And the world's got really big problems, right? And our organizations have problems, and our organizations have solutions. How do we build those really good mental models? And that's what I'm going to be speaking through. Robert, do you want to go back and talk a little bit more about some of the challenges with data communication, or it sounds like you already covered some of that in your intro?
Well, no, actually, I just want to add to this. So part of the interactivity of data, or the exchange of data, visualization of information, is that it should be an interaction. One of the things at Walmart we did was we built a room which surrounded people with monitors, and a data scientist, a storyteller, would be able to present data and take a person through a story. And the story was, for example, due to this snowstorm, the major snowstorm that went across the United States, we're looking at weather data. We're able to show that that data change sales, how there was a major increase in this area, bread, food, and the like, and a drop in other areas. But it's in that collaboration where the CEO, for example, of Walmart asked me a question. I was able then to change and take him through a story that was convincing. And I think that's the key here. Data storytelling is about taking information, whether it's past information of past sales or forward-looking advanced analytics, not either, doesn't matter. It's taking the person through a series of steps that helps them understand and get a handle on the message that you're trying to present. So in terms of working with the C-level staff, they're not technologists necessarily, but they want to be able to inquire. They want to be able to ask questions of the data. And having a data scientist and myself in the room, we were able to facilitate that by enabling them access to the information, one. Two, it allowed them to start using their insight, and we actually watched them and learned from them how they probed through the data. They would drill down through these areas. For example, they would say, okay, sales of Walmart stores. Let's look at the Northeast. Let's look at a Pacific Supercenter. Let's go into their food sales. Let's go into their apparel sales. And it was through learning that we were able to actually find out information, and the CEO was able to, on Black Friday, monitor the sales that were happening on the East Coast, and then change the distribution in the Midwest and Western time zones, actually increasing sales tens of millions of dollars. So the net here is to enable the C-suite, enable the senior leaders of an organization to not only understand the data, be able to interact and work with that data, but finally to be able to become more data-driven, which is, as we all know in the chief data officer world, is the goal of our role, is to make an organization data-driven, and to have that data-driven understanding be the method of choice for decisions rather than gut instinct. So with that introduction, I think I've kind of described the problem. What you're looking at on the screen, I'm gonna let Jason take you through. By the way, this and when we get to the actual project, I worked with the team on a daily basis, and it was a phenomenally exciting and visually amazing presentation. You're actually all going to see that. So I'm going to turn it back over to Jason and let Jason now take you through some of this.
Sure. Well, this is not exactly the data that Robert was just talking about with his Walmart example from years ago, but I thought it would be reasonably relevant to what he was describing. This is foot traffic from 2020, and you can see this huge drop that occurred in these 5 major brands. And then we all got tired of looking at the curtains and all went to Home Depot pretty quickly afterwards, and you see that huge bump. What you're also seeing is that this is a interactive environment. So right now I just had the panelists also join in, so you can see their avatars. If panelists, yeah, go ahead and move around and show them that you're interactive within the space. Now, in a way, what are these avatars doing? Why do we bother to do that? Well, knowing where someone is looking, and particularly these laser pointers, helps to drive a more profound conversation with a non-expert audience. So I can see that participant 1 is just looking at Target. Well, they just clicked on the dot here for Home Depot, and of course, when I click on a dot, I can see what they're doing as well. Knowing that they can point at something, say, "Tell me about this." I'm going to jump to another example here to the this election data set. When I say, "Tell me about this," I don't need to be an expert with understanding the jargon in that field of expertise, but that interaction of this becomes a technical term, and everyone can dig in and have a really good conversation. So what you're seeing is flow. It is the instantiation of our, I call it, take everything we know about brain science and turn it into software. And I'm not going to have time to go into all of the details of that right here, but let me show you one other example to help you see kind of how this works, and also to talk about the brain science behind some of it. By the way, everything you're seeing is just a browser. This runs smoothly in a browser, and we think that that's actually important because if you've got to communicate, you've got to better make sure you've got a way to communicate quickly and effectively without having people download apps or anything like that. So let's talk about some of the brain science behind this. So when you think about a lot of the way we communicate, it has to do with PowerPoint. We spend a lot of time in some sort of slideware. And what that does is each time your slide appears in front of a user's visual cortex, that image disappears, and then a new one is replaced. I'm waving my hands left to right as these images disappear. And we're all used to it, right? But isn't that the way the world works? Well, it turns out that's not the way our brains work. Our brains are used to manipulating physical objects. They're used to being in a physical space and seeing things in 3D. Our models, mental models, actually are 3D. That's the way our brains work. That's the way mammals have evolved to find their food, to interact with their food. And so instead of creating a series of slides, what if we create a series of steps through a single mental model of information? This view I'm showing here is life expectancy over the last 200 years for a selected group of countries. And what I'm doing is just step-by-step manipulating a single set of data so that you walk away with a single mental vision. In this case, we're showing Japan as the highest life expectancy in the world, up here at 83 years. By highlighting that view, we can filter in to show just certain aspects of the data. So in this example, I've just isolated down to Rwanda, and you can see what happened in 1994, where the genocide caused a huge drop in life expectancy. And then here I'm filtering down just to show World War II and the Spanish flu, which particularly the Spanish flu was one of humanity's greatest failures, right? In terms of life expectancy, and just went across every single country in the world. There's actually a single year huge dip in life expectancy. So what have I done here? I've walked you through a single idea, and this single idea can stay with you, stay with your audience in a way that is much easier on the brain than than these slides that keep disappearing. And oh, there's so many stories in here. I mean, we can click in and see what was going on in Cambodia during the Pol Pot. You can see this range here of beige countries. That's sub-Saharan Africa. See that dip that goes down across the 90s? That's the AIDS pandemic. There's so many stories to tell in these in data sets like this, and that's really what we've been. With a double click, we can isolate, of course. That really is the brain science behind what we're doing. There's many other aspects to it, but I think I'm just going to stop there and hope that is communicated reasonably clearly. Robert?
Yeah. Why don't we talk a little bit about terms and usage of it? For example, we call flows a presentation, but it consists of a series of steps. Jason, you want to expand upon that?
Yeah, so flow is this series of steps, again, tries to help you build a single mental model. But I think it's also really important to understand that there's got to be really powerful ways of getting this out into the world. And when you use the flows, let me just say, are created with a no-code authoring tool, browser-based. And this is an example of someone in the wild using Flow. It works as an augmented reality or virtual reality system as well. Is that just cool? What is it about it that's, why do we respond to it this way? And you can tell that the response has been amazing. For this content creator, that's 143,000 likes. This video had 2 million views on TikTok, and actually got this content creator invites to speak on Good Morning America and a variety of other environments. As a marketer, that's fabulous. As a communicator, that's really exciting to me. But let me just describe the brain science behind the cool. When we say cool, what is it that we mean? And I've got my definition. My definition is mastery and control. So think about that great skateboard trick or the BMW driving experience. You can see me waving my hands like I'm on the steering wheel right now. Or Iron Man flicking his atoms in an augmented reality space in order to design a new element. We see that and I go, oh, that's cool. Well, really, it's that sense of mastery and control over gravity. control over your information. And for businesses, that is efficiency. If you can have that control, you can navigate to your data quickly, you can share it quickly, everybody on the audience can interact and explore it simultaneously. You're giving everyone that sense of control, and that's efficiency. Better, faster communication of your idea into their head. So it's not just cool. It is cool, I'll give you that, but it's not just cool. And we very often, when we start to work with customers, we remind them that don't tell everybody that this thing is cool. Tell them that it's going to be able to enable them to communicate more effectively.
I like that. So what you're looking at on the screen right now is a step in a flow. A step is a individual screen, and it can be isolated, and elements can be seen, and we have the ability now to collaborate. People to come in as avatars, as you see now happening, come in and for themselves select a data point and learn from the data. Along with a series, with each step, there's a data set, and we call a data set a swarm. And that term swarm was used because we can actually show information. So what I'd like to do, and if Jason, this makes sense, is take you through the actual presentation. I'm going to stop for a second, Jason. I know that there was the AR video you wanted to do. Have you done that?
Yeah, I just showed that briefly while I was speaking about the brain.
Good. No problem. This is interaction, and this is like a normal meeting of a business, right? So, what we're doing now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen and show you an example of the. I just have to get to how to share screen. I know it's here. Sharing. Here we go. Sharing. Show screen. Okay. Nope, change presenter to Robert Abate. There we go. All right. Show my screen. Okay, so here we are. This is a deliverable actually to a client that was made about 6 months ago. It was actually at the request of an insurance company out of Chicago, and the corporation called Avance Health had noticed that there was a tremendous event, or they perceived that because of a tremendous event, there was going to be an increase in costs of healthcare. And what they had asked us to do was develop, you go out and find all the data sets we can, find out about the obesity of people gaining weight, and tell a story. So along the bottom of the screen, you're going to see a number of labels along with those hashtags. Those describe the steps that I'm going to take you through, the story. So the story I wanted to tell was, well, you know, obesity was already on the rise in 2012. By 2018, we started to see an increase. Now, again, we're in 3 dimensions. So I could move the screen. If you have the ability, you could move the screen. You could grab a dot, see its value and alike. So I'm going to fly through this. So quickly, I was able to see the percent change over the U.S. Was larger in the Midwest, southern states, but unpredictably also in areas we didn't expect. That's what data does, right? It tells a story. We were focusing this presentation for a group in the Southeast. So we grabbed the Southeastern states and then plotted the Southeastern states by group. And by ethnic group, it allowed us to see who was hit the hardest. Well, Hispanics showed in the Southeastern states, and I'm going to isolate the yellow, which is South Carolina. That was one area of focus that I can do. We then looked at the other populations. For example, the non-Hispanic Black population, much different story, much higher numbers. In fact, those numbers, obesity of almost 46%. So, and then we took the likewise other ethnic populations. We compared the southern states to the national average. Again, you have the ability to zoom in, look at data and the information. I can jump in, jump out. And that allowed me to then create this swarm of information. Now, a swarm, this is actually all data points. Everything here are data points. So a large data point is a larger value. Microscopic data point is a microscopic value. So what we're going to do is we wanted to look at that weight gain. I apologize, people. I've got dogs in the background. The weight gain by group, we found an average of 29 pounds in the U.S. and likewise, the largest hit groups were parents and essential workers. When we looked at it by ethnicity and then we looked at it by age, we were really surprised to see millennials had the largest weight gain. Somebody had attributed it to their large game players. Well, I don't know if that's the truth, but that's an interesting point. We also used predictive analytics because we had data from the U.S. government, self-reported data, out to about 2018. So we needed to find out what would be happening, assuming no lockdown and no increase in weight. And it would be actually a linear regression is what it turned out to be, with the highest state being Mississippi. So then we said, what would happen with the COVID lockdown? Well, it flew off the curve, just jumping. And now let's look at diabetes data and diabetes information, because that's what the purpose was, to show that the increase in weight caused something. So we looked at causes of death and found that diabetes was almost equal to accidents and overdose from 2019 to 2020. And we were surprised. Next thing that caught us was the underlying conditions of COVID deaths. Only under cardiovascular disease was diabetes sitting. So we looked at the prevalence across the US. We looked at it without the COVID weight gain. We predicted out now using analytics, and I'm looking at it. It was generally lower. With the COVID weight gain, I think you could see the magnitude of the effect. It's the visualization of it is stunning. We're predicting incredible rates. So given that, we said, okay, let's look across the entire U.S. in this view. Maybe we'll look at it by state in case somebody wanted to isolate in on a state. I've highlighted right now white in South Carolina because that's where I was presenting to. But it allowed me then to go by state. When we said what would happen with the weight gain and use the predictive modeling tool, it actually went off the chart. We had to reset the chart to show COVID weight gain. And if we focused in on the Southeast, without and with, again, it flew off the chart. We're talking about 41% of the population of Mississippi possibly having diabetes. And when I went back to the other points, I could stop there. We also showed them, for example, what would happen to the economic properties and the like. But I think I've kind of given you the overall perspective. I was able to take them through a story about how their weight gain, and that's what they were looking for, how weight gain could have an increase in the effect in the actual like. So I'm going to now push the presenter back now to Jason. So Jason, you can share your screen, and we're going to take you through now some interesting examples of the United Nations and other areas where the work we did actually could change the world, literally change the world. Go ahead, Jason. Jason, are you muted by any chance?
Looks like I was. Thank you. Sorry about that. One of the things I'll just do is say, you can go to our website to see some of these examples and play on your own. So I'm like I say, I'm sorry to make that sound promotional, but if you want to play with some of these things, I think you might like to. I don't think I have a way to send the chat to everyone. So I was just, the URL to take a look at is flowimmersive.com. And I'm not sure why that looks like it's only going to the organizers. Maybe one of the organizers can help me out there to share that. And you'll see
we'll do that, Jason. We'll do that.
Thank you. You'll see a whole bunch of these featured flows. Let me show, I'm just going to pick one or two very briefly and really open this up to questions, because we built the product by listening to customers, not because we thought we had a special dispensation on knowledge. And so what some of your questions are really valuable to me. I'm going to show, we've really been experimenting on some of the ways that you can show data only in 3D, ways that wouldn't actually even fit in a PowerPoint slide. And that's the example with this one, where we're showing COVID both geographically and over time in the same view. And here you can see that the size of the dots have to do with how, with the rate of COVID in that particular county. If any county had, a low rate, not zero, but just a low rate, we don't bother to show a dot just to keep the data a little bit cleaner. But you can start to see some really interesting perspectives right off the bat. You can see the wave, and I'm sorry, this data is a little bit old. It only goes through last July. We're doing an update on the data right now for this particular visualization. But you can see what it looks like and what it feels like to have a wave across the whole country in the wintertime months. You could see in July we're just starting to get another wave. It turned into a much bigger wave in August, but particularly in the Midwest and West, and Louisiana and Florida was starting to pick up. So ways that you can see the see information kind of uniquely in 3D is one of the kind of focuses that we and our customers have been exploring. I think the only thing I haven't mentioned that I probably should is that it's really important to get past the cool factor in understanding that this needs to be fit easily into an enterprise workflow. Our existing customers are organizations like the UN Development Program, the World Bank, Deloitte, PwC, organizations like that, and some large healthcare organizations. And if this was just something, a system that some programmers had to go off and build these presentations, I don't think that would really move the needle on the big issues that we're all facing. So what we've done is we've created what we call the flow editor, which enables anybody with a, just through a browser to be able to actually create these. And I'm not going to go into too much detail on that right now, but just to show you that, hey, there is an editor, and we do not expect someone to need to know how to code in order to build a visualization. You can start to see, in this case, the life expectancy data set, see that appear very quickly in front of you as you, so that you can get ready for your meeting tomorrow. You can't build a system that's too complicated or no one would use it, and what's the point? I will stop there and open it up to questions, please. Okay.
Well, I was looking at a couple of questions, and there, I love the idea that we can do some interaction here. Feel free to throw in a question, and we'll do it in real time. I'm looking to see the question list. Not answered, just questions. Okay. Robert Lutton, do you see any questions that I'm missing? Because for some reason I'm trying to access the questions and I don't see.
Yeah, and I do see a few from Ty. I think you've already tried to answer some, but a question came up from Adam. And by the way, Jason, a fantastic tool for the modern day era. Really, congratulations on a fantastic job. I can see so much use for this globally. But let me go into the first question that hasn't been answered yet. Adam had said, it will be interesting to look back at these predictions at the points where you've predicted them. So, Jason, maybe you can talk to the concept of, because obviously people have been using this tool for a while. Have you seen the models actually come true that have been predicted in the data sets? I mean, you're obviously just predicting data sets, but could you talk to that?
Well, you know what? Let me start first, and Jason can address after. The data is in itself a data set. So we took, for example, data from the United States government healthcare system, from a number of different sources, the Center for Disease Control, NIH, self-reported data on diabetes. So all the data we took was actual real data. And for example, the presentation that you saw Jason give on life expectancy, all that data was collected and presented as real data. It's when you use a advanced analytical technique to predict is to go further, right? To go beyond what we already know. So in the example of weight gain, we used linear regression. That was the methodology for weight gain based off of a number of meetings we had with both doctors and data scientists. There are many different advanced analytic techniques, random forest, k-means clustering. Every analytical technique tries to predict using I guess the best thing to say is using the right analytical function against the data for that prediction to be more accurate. So in the development, for example, of a flow, we might take existing data, use the data scientist to predict out using the advanced analytics the data in the future. That's why I started in the diabetes show, showing you here's what the past was, and now let's show you what happens if we do some predictive work out. And that predictive work, again, it would be interesting to go back and look. I went back and looked at some of the predictive data I did at Kimberly-Clark, and it was about 88% accurate, which to me felt like a win. Geez, if a baseball hitter hits 33% of the time, he's in the Hall of Fame. So, and a weatherman, if they're right once a week, we feel fortunate. So again, I'm trying to make light of a situation, which is predictive analytics is a field. It's data scientists' specialty to predict which tool, which equation, I think, I'm trying to find the right word, but net is to try and find the right formula to get that prediction. And we believe we've chosen the right ones.
Yeah. Jason.
Yeah, so I feel like that's not the job of we as the data presenter. That's the job of the data and the more serious data scientist that goes behind it, which is what Robert was engaging with. It is really interesting if we can get, quick data, almost real-time data. We can help see some really interesting things that become predictive. And that's our goal, is to communicate as a tool. That's really what we're focused on, as opposed to those other algorithms.
You've really simplified the communication.
The data preparation is minimalistic. I mean, we were pulling in actual data and using the tool. We imported, for example, CSV files very easily, and we're able to build very quickly a visualization and say, okay, should we go down this path? Let's look to find more sources. I saw one of the questions is, can this be built by business users without extensive code changes? It is extremely easy. In fact, I learned it within a couple of days because it's Excel-like, importing features, and the ability then to start developing was very much like a simplistic front end for developing graphics. So that question. Did you need cubes? Did you need materialized views? No, we don't. And performance issues, I did not find any. I could let Rish, your question be answered more by Jason. And to Ty's question, have you done any military operations support? No, not yet. So Jason, maybe you could talk about performance issues if you're building it real time in a relational database.
Sure. I just have a technical question on GoToMeeting here. My chat window seems to be stuck just on organizers and panelists. Is there any way I can see the other questions coming in?
No, you know what? Unfortunately not. I can read off a question, for example.
Okay. Well,
the first one was the idea of are there performance issues?
So
pull data from AWS Data Exchange and S3 buckets.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm going to go back a question first. Okay. So first, to the point around seeing and predicting what relationships, complex relationships. This is a really good example of this. This is showing vaccination rates and active cases of COVID. Again, this is I think this is last fall's data set, but seeing this middle of the country and Florida bump in active cases simultaneously with the fact that they are less less vaccinated than, say, the Northeast. Even seeing some of the exceptions, like LA is less vaccinated than some other, or has well, actually is, you can see the shade of purple gives it a medium level of vaccination, even though a high number of cases. So there are exceptions to the rule, and you can really get to see that in a visualization like this. If you can see it, can understand it, you can communicate it, yes, maybe you can predict it, but better, can you change it? Can you help people see it and change their attitudes around it? Another question was around the authoring tool, and I showed that briefly. It's just a SaaS subscription model, and we more and more are bringing people in quickly. And we've actually had a major release in the last few weeks. And before this point, we've always wanted to have a conversation and go through a kind of an enterprise sales process before bringing people into the tool. And now we'll have a credit card and actually let anyone join in. We still, with large organizations, you have security needs, you have all kinds of enterprise level features and assistance that will help you with. But we really do think that a self-serve model is the future for this kind of a tool. Okay, next question.
Okay, here's a question. I'm going through them. There was a question about, now I guess the bottom is the newest. No, the bottom's a little organizing. What have been the adoption challenges with Flow? That's a good question from Maritza.
Oh, yeah, adoption. I'll take a little longer answer to this question because it helps describe some of the journey of the company, and I think you might find that interesting. We started 5.5 years ago thinking that we were going to be a VR company, that it was going to be maybe the PowerPoint of VR. And we basically starved to death for 4 years. We got some good customers and built a lot of really interesting tech. But it wasn't until we stepped back from virtual reality and headsets and really focused on a great flat screen experience, as well as focused on the AR video, mobile AR for people to create videos like I showed earlier. When we stepped back from VR, that's when the company really took off. And it still is an amazing experience in headsets. But that was a huge, overcoming that as a requirement was a huge benefit to adoption. The other adoption issues that we do address is it's pretty new. People aren't used to thinking about their data in this way. They're not used to thinking about telling data stories. Even though I would submit that most good communicators know how to tell data stories, they don't think about it in those terms. And so there's certainly a level of art and mental, I don't even want to use the word training. It's just a way of thinking about information that we have had to help people get over that hump. The best way that we address adoption is we start with very small engagements, even down to a few $1,000s with an organization so that they can try it. They can get their own data in. They can start to experiment and figure out how powerful it is. If you don't see your own data, sometimes it feels very abstract, and we try to overcome that by working carefully with each and every new customer.
Gotcha. Hey, Jason, here's an interesting one. Does the tool reach into proprietary or secure data sets?
So we are an AWS shop and keep our data either in S3 buckets or in databases. As such, we have also built the entire thing to easily be your own cloud implementation on AWS or Azure, or to do a full on-prem installation on your own Unix boxes. So for highly secure organizations, I'm thinking financial services and healthcare, especially healthcare when it relates directly to patient data, then we have an on-prem solution for so that you can manage your own security and have total confidence in it.
Awesome. I'm looking through. Was there data preparation needs, cubes or materialized view that needed to be built?
So I think the question really relates to how much is built within the tool and how much data processing and things do you do prior to the tool. We're not trying to provide every mechanism you can imagine to manipulate your data. There's no reason to re-implement R scripting and things like that. So we do, for serious data work, we do still expect data scientists to do data preparation. Inside of that, though, we do have a number of tools to make it, to give you some real powerful systems. So, for example, say you want to aggregate by continent and region and country. And so here we've done those aggregations for, you know, I call it grouping aggregations for you. And then in addition, you can do calculations on those fields. Maybe you want to sum up the population across those groups or average life expectancy. So I'm doing some of that. And actually, let me do another average latitude and longitude, because we can now actually turn this data set into, I've just created a snapshot of the data. We can actually turn this data set into some sort of a hierarchy. And that can get pretty interesting. So now you can see, let's just add a dimension here. Say a life expectancy, and we can pull that up. So we're building a three-dimensional hierarchy of the data. Obviously, I didn't really prepare this particular data set for it, but you can see as each level sums up, you know, by region, et cetera, the data. So I think that's just showing the fact that you have some manipulation, some ability to manipulate the data here in real time, but we don't expect people to do all of their data science work before getting to Flow. Hopefully that answers the question cleanly.
I think it did, and you know, having been in the tool now, I guess almost a year, what I've learned is that the tool's features are very intuitive, because you will pull in a data set, let's say, for example, a CSV file. A business person who works in Excel is often playing with Excel, would pull in the data set and then say, okay, let's place this on a globe. Let me add some colors. And that is how you build. So the first swarm you see there is data. And a map, I could add a map, I could change its position. So this is the idea of telling the story. You first look at the data, and this tool allows you to do that pre-visualization, so you understand where you're going to, maybe what rat hole you're going to go down first. And I say that lovingly, because in data we all know that we go after things, and then we learn. So here's an example of, I took the data, I said, let me plot it on a globe. That ability to put it onto the globe is important. Then I want to be able to say, give life expectancy its range. Let's look on each area of the globe. We're now looking at that life expectancy. So this allowed me then to start to tell a story. And in pictorial form, a globe, and I could spin the globe as well. The globe gives me the capability of understanding, well, I could definitely see now on the far side of the globe, we've got, you know, less life expectancy than we do here. And it was the combination of an easy to use, quick way to rapidly look at information, and then the ability to create the data story. And someone had asked the question, what did I mean by hashtags? And I want to answer that to everyone. Along the bottom of the screen is a vertical line, and each of the horizontal lines, horizontal line across the bottom of the screen, each of the vertical lines is a step. So what you see here in Swarm, step 1, we're now creating step 2, step 3. So those are the story that we tell. And that is how the team, my team working with Flow, working with the client, we were able to pull together and say, okay, before we can tell your story, we have to find out what the story is. So we use the tool to understand the story. Then working with the customer, we were able to say, okay, here's what we found out about weight gain. It looks like weight gain is, very hard hit in this area of the country. Maybe we focus here. We could then take the information about what is a disease tied to weight. Well, hypertension is the #1 disease tied to weight. Diabetes is one that is very much more extensive in terms of its cost to the population. So that's how we were able to take people through and focus the talk and create the narrative that then becomes what we call a flow, a series of steps that takes a person down a story, a data story. And we learn during data stories. I think all of us in the data field, and I've been in it for over 40 years, hate to admit that, but when you've been in data for a long time, you realize when it comes to learning about data, you'll always find things you didn't expect. You'll always learn, the data will give you an answer that you then take down a different, and I called it a rat hole, but sometimes they are, and sometimes they're golden holes. Honey holes, as they call them in gold mining. So we've kind of shown that. Are there any other questions? I'm looking here at the question box.
Robert, how would someone get a hold of you and Jason? Is it go to Flow Immersive, or how would they best get a hold of you?
Yeah, sure. My company's called Immersion. And Immersion, you can go to infoimmersion.com to find out about our consulting services. We are working with the Flow toolset, which is why I wanted to get you to the flowimmersive.com, which is their website. That's how you can look at the tool. You can look at some of the visualizations. I also suggest, and this is just purely because I was so impressed, you might want to go to, for example, TikTok and look up the data guy. Michael DiBenegno, who is a member of the Flow team. He has about 10 million followers. I'm trying to remember how many, but you'll see there's the data guy.
He's gotten 10 million views. He's got about 150,000 followers, I think, at this point.
Okay, 10 million views.
And he's our head of business here at Flow. He just started doing this for fun, and suddenly it became a huge opportunity for us to communicate ideas, but also to create some great inbound queries into our company.
Right. And so for getting in touch with the company, you've got a direct link to them, as well as infoimmersion.com. We do the data consulting, the data science, and the other data preparatory work, and help build the story. So we work through the process with the client, and it's a reusable model, project plan, very fast. We could do these in I say, Jason, we're usually in the 3 to 4 week time frame to do a couple steps in a flow is not uncommon for us. So we do very rapid implementation, so people see the value, and then from there we often every project we've done so far has resulted in the sale of the tool. So
there's two modes really for enterprise customers. Is our services model, which we will build flows. Turns out the UN seems to really like that, and we have done for the General Assembly this year. They gave us about 4 days before the assembly itself began. So that was a little exciting. I would not promote that. But then in addition, there's the self-serve model, and I think that pretty much all of our customers are, even if we start with more of a services model to help you build your first few presentations, that we want to encourage all of our customers to use the tools themselves. We're not in this to get services revenue. We're in this to expand the ability of humanity to communicate more effectively.
And Jason, I posted your email and contact details in the chat for everyone. So if they want to go there, they can get a hold of your email and name there. And also, I think I took a quick look at the website. You can actually start a trial pretty easily, I believe.
Yes. Get in touch here. We have a waiting list for this new version of the self-serve flow editor. So grab an invite. we do have about 5,000 people on the waiting list, and we will be opening that. We're actually now, starting last week, we started opening that up to small groups, and over the next few weeks, we'll invite all 5,000 and anyone else to sign up using the self-serve tool. But get in touch. You don't need to just end up on some random waiting list. You guys are an amazing group of people and audience, and we're happy to.
Just one last question from the general audience. Who is your primary user? Who would be the primary user of this? Is it a data scientist? Is it the analyst? Who, in your opinion, who have you seen be the primary user?
Sure, let's define user, because a user could be the person who's creating the flow, it could be the person who's presenting the flow, or it can be an audience member experiencing the flow.
The person creating the flow, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Who would be the person that would be the user in creating the flow?
Depending on the data set, sometimes it is a data scientist, because there's a lot of data work that goes in front of that. But we did not build the tool to be technical. So if the data is in reasonably good shape, we expect that pretty much anybody who's comfortable using PowerPoint is a flow editor. And we have seen the whole gamut of folks who have very little data experience build absolutely amazing flows, and folks that have serious data scientists come in and also build really powerful flows.
Well, Jason, there was another last minute question maybe you can answer. For globally distributed teams that need to interact in real time, how does performance hold up? Is this cloud-based, automatically distributed, or would regional nodes be needed to support latency issues?
AWS already distributes the base code base to servers all over the world, so the flow should load quickly no matter where you are in the world. And the interactivity, the multi-user, is an extremely simple form of a game engine, and that's also easy to scale quite broadly. We haven't had a lot of use cases where we've needed to have 1,000 people in flow simultaneously, but if that is a use case you're interested in, get in touch.
Good.
I wanted to take just the last minute here to show where we're going next. We've been talking a lot about the presentation environment, and the next set of releases that we're working on right now is around being able to show really massive hierarchies of information and being able to navigate those quickly and effectively. So this is a very simple view of 10,000 cities, but you can see each area has been aggregated up. The white is the continent level, the colors are different regions, and doing that aggregation of a hierarchy. And when you have a very large data set, you're going to need to be able to drill in and explore that more interactively and real time. So being able to expand any node in the hierarchy with a click. And I know this is just kind of an abstract view at the moment, but wiring this up together with very big data sources and being able to update those queries in real time as you go, I think is the next real vision. William Gibson first described cyberspace with this quote. He said, "The nearly infinite complexity of all the computers in the human system, the data laid out in front of the user like city lights receding." And I feel like if you had that power, that much control and mastering control over your data and how you can explore it and communicate it, that's kind of the holy grail we're working towards, and actually, in some ways, pretty close on. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to everybody today. This has been really fun, and I hope this was engaging. And I'm sorry if it sounded a little salesy. It's been my life for so many years. I just can't help but get excited about what we're doing.
Not a problem, Jason.
When you have something good and you're the owner of it, you have a pride, and that pride shows, Jason. It shows through. Robert, you were going to say something.
Yeah, no, I just we're at the top of the hour there, and Jason, you should be proud. It is something that you and the team have done a fantastic job on. So what we'll do is, this session has been recorded. We will send the link out so that way people can watch out. I know there's a couple of people that couldn't get in for some reason, so we'll make sure they all get that link. You've got both Robert and Jason's emails. We'll send out a general communication to everyone, but it just falls upon me, Robert and Jason, to thank you for a very stimulating and definitely a future technology I think a lot of us will get involved in. So really appreciate your time today, guys.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, and for our ISCDO audience, thank you very much indeed for tuning in. We'll be in touch with our next webinar coming up next month. Thank you.
Good session.